Mr. Kispes is our president, one of the great men. Of course, he used to be MP and leading many big charity organizations around the world. And he's of course, he's chair of the trustee of the Universal Peace Federation and the president of the organization Stop Human Trafficking. Keith, please, if there's anything else, introduce yourself. I know you are in another country and you want to just do it, and after that, please introduce yourself. And welcome. Put your hand together for.
Sheikh, thank you very much for that introduction. I'm sorry I cannot be with you physically, but I'm actually in North Macedonia at the moment. And I really wanted to start with something that may not be seen to be directly relevant to human trafficking, but I believe it is. Karl Marx, very often regarded as the author of Communist System, famously said that property is theft. I challenge that. I'm afraid communism is theft, and I had a very good example of that just a couple of days ago when I was in Albania, and we were visiting a privately owned, family-run wine business. And the girl, who's one of the daughters, who is now helping to run it, explained how that in the communist era, her grandfather, who had owned 30 acres of land and had a very good, profitable wine business, suddenly found all that land expropriated by the state. And at the end of communism, rather than getting those 30 hectares back, he was given 2 hectares, not in the place that he wanted, but where he was told he could have them. And yet they have reactivated their wine business. But it gives you an example of the terrible problems under which many people in this world live in autocratic states where property is not allowed individually but is expropriated by the state. And the reason I mentioned that and its relevance to human trafficking and modern slavery is because those of us in the do not appreciate how difficult it is for those concepts of human rights to be enjoyed or even articulated in many countries of the world that are autocracies or are like North Korea, are ones that are completely run as a socialist state dominated by an individual dictator. And the relevance of this is when you look back at the end of the Second World War, and all these wonderful instruments were created, like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, there was no enforcement action there. We do have human rights instruments now which can be enforced. We have the European Convention on Human Rights, and if there is an infringement of that, you can go to the court in Strasbourg and get a determination as to whether your human rights enshrined in the European Declaration have been transgressed or not. But there is no such instrument for a breach of rights of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that came about at the end of the Second World War. There are very few treaties to which governments sign up where if they breach those treaties, there is some sort of penalty as a result. And Sheikh Ramsey was kind enough to refer to my various activities in the international sphere. One of those was as the chair of the executive committee of the World Federalist Movement. And in the late 1990s, we cooperated very much with Prime Minister Robinson of Trinidad and Tobago and other minor states that wanted to see the establishment of an international criminal court. I won't take you through the details of how that came about, but But what we did in the World Federalist Movement was to create a coalition of civil society, some 2,500 NGOs worldwide, and international lawyers now are kind enough to say that without that civil society intervention, we would not still now have an international criminal court. And of course, the importance of the International Criminal Court is that those states that sign up to it have to expect that if their head of state is responsible for committing one of the crimes enshrined in the statute of the International Criminal Court, they can be prosecuted. They can be prosecuted in their own country, and if their own country is unwilling or unable to do that, or the state in which the atrocity has been committed is unwilling or unable to do that, then they can be brought to The Hague. And it was remarkable how so many countries that signed up and then ratified the International Criminal Court had to change their own constitutions in order to remove the inviolability of their head of state. And maybe one of the reasons the United States under Clinton they did sign up quite literally the last minute before he ceased to be president, and then it was immediately reversed by his successor. But one of the reasons, no doubt, that the United States is so critical of the International Criminal Court is because it would mean that if President Trump, for example, committed what would be regarded as a war crime or a crime against humanity, then he could be prosecuted if they were a signatory to the International Criminal Court. So I'm going to end there, but I'm going to say this, that whilst we rightly try to mobilise civil society, whilst we rightly try to go to companies and get them to certify that their goods and services have not been obtained through the abuse of human dignity, through human trafficking or modern slavery, we do really need to concentrate also on making sure that those people who are in effect imprisoned in a human rights nightmare, where all the wonderful declarations that we have are not ones that are capable of being enforced. So it's another angle that I feel that we should adopt and look at. And with that, thank you very much indeed for your kind attention, and I wish you well in the deliberations that are going to take place here and now. So thank you all very much indeed, and Godspeed.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much. You're great as usual. Thank you very much for making the time to, I know it's in Macedonia, to come to us. Of course, I'm sure your heart is there. And God bless you all. I'm Dr. Sheikh Ramzi, or Sheikh Dr. Ramzi. I'm the SG Secretary General of the organization. Organization opened, we opened about 5, 6, 7 years ago. And you know the situation of the trafficking, human trafficking, get worse and worse and worse. Therefore, we are today here by the grace of Almighty God to talk. It's not a quantity important; it's a quality important. Which we can get it is very, very important, because many we approach. Of course, we have a wide range of the people around us on the internet, on the social media, and so which they're talking, and they know our job is to make the people aware of something happening like that. The people are saying, "Does it happen? You believe me? Does it happen?" The person gets it from there. I give it flyers. Look at that and say, "No, it doesn't happen here." He doesn't think, of course it's happening here, happening all over. Therefore, what we have a great number of speakers and the panel as well. We've got a great number of speakers, which I put, and I welcome you all to our meetings. And the next one going to be we hold a placard and going toward the Downing Street and talk and say, yes, people, look, we are here. No matter what they do, we say we are here. We never give up until all people are free, because imagine what the mother and the child wished. They put them separately. They have been abducted. They put them separate. They put them separately. He says, if you don't do anything which I say, I damage your son, I damage your daughter. You never see her again. She does anything. And he goes with the little boy, goes with the purifier, and after that goes the other one with the all sort of evil things. Therefore, be here, be careful, and be here. That's what we are here to do. And I would like to say Robin Marsh, of course, Secretary General of the organization, and they're very, very close to the, and they're collaborating with the UPF and the Stop Human Trafficking. Please, put your hand together.
So I think it's more my job to welcome you here, this venue, that we have many such events over a long period of time. Sheikh Ramzi, I remember together we had many events about the Rohingya, and it's an issue which continues. We also had here, and there have been many events also about the abuse of women. In the worst place for a woman in the world is in Eastern Congo. And we have many events here talking about those issues. Also in the Parliament, in the European Parliament at that time. But we've worked together with a network of people who are concerned, and we coalesce around an issue which needs it. It needs our attention. And somehow, where there's a wound, then all the white blood cells, they all coalesce. And then suddenly there's a raise in temperature and there's a healing going on. I feel the same with all the NGOs, all the concerned people. They coalesce around a particular issue, to highlight it, to campaign for it, to reach out to members of government, members of all political parties, and we make a coalition around a particular issue. And this is an important thing. Sheikh Ramzi, I know, is pouring incredible energy and effort into how to solve this terrible, egregious issue, which is, some parts is as old as warfare. Slavery has been there for many millennia. But there have been much more modern and terrible dynamics to this, which we really need to tackle. So I offer our support, and tonight represents one element of our support for your campaign on this issue. As we've had many here before, and we will have, I'm sure, many in the time to come. So I pray that we can come to conclusions and points of action through this evening's program. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lord Shokatani, please put your hand together for
Good evening, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank Brother Ramzi, Stop the Human Trafficking, and the Universal Peace Federation, everyone involved in organising tonight's event. Thank you also to everyone here this evening, because your presence shows that you care and that you believe in this issue deserves attention and action. We are gathered here tonight to discuss one of the most serious challenges facing society today: human trafficking, modern slavery. These are not just words of headlines we occasionally hear in the news. Behind every statistic is a real person. Someone's child, someone's parents, someone whose freedom, dignity, future have been taken away. Too often people think human trafficking only happens in distant places or somewhere far from our lives. But the truth is that exploitation can exist much closer to home than many realize. It can happen in our towns, our cities, and within communities that appear ordinary from outside. That is what makes this issue so dangerous. It often hides in a plain sight. That is why awareness is so important. It's about empowering people to recognize warning signs, protect themselves and others, and understand that speaking up can save lives. However, awareness alone is not enough. Real change requires action. Government, organizations and the law enforcement all have a role to play. The communities, individuals also have a responsibility. We must educate ourselves to support those working on front line and never ignore situations that simply do not feel right. Silence protects those who exploit others, but awareness, compassion and action protect victims. Tonight is not only about discussing problems, it's about creating hope and protect victims. Tonight is not only becoming part of our solution. Let us leave here committed, standing up against exploitation, raising awareness, using our voices for those who have been silenced. And together we can build a world where every person can live with freedom and dignity and safety. Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight. I'm really grateful. Dr. Ramsey, you work so hard. You're always at the forefront. May God bless you and prosper you. And we got obviously people from the Scientology Church. We're really, really grateful for your efforts, and I mean, obviously you work so hard over the years. We really appreciate your services. And Sister Margaret and Brother Robin, excellent people. There's our brother sitting here. I mean, he works very hard. He's connected with all the communities. And man, I really appreciate you coming from the Home Office. I work very close with the Home Office though, so we'll have a chat afterwards. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, the scale of corporate influence, there are 5.7 million businesses in the UK. And in terms of the definition to categorize large businesses, more than 250 employees or more than 30 million turnover, it's categorized as a large business. So there are like 8,000 large businesses in the UK, which is about less than 0.5%. And they have a massive, extensive global supply chain in different countries and in different continents. So for instance, Tesco's supply chain has more than working with 900 factories across 40 countries. Or for instance, in Apple supplier ecosystem, there are more than 60 countries that they are part of the supply chain. So through spending and procurement decision, all these large businesses, they can affect the, they can influence in terms of the working condition, in terms of the accountability right, and also to pursue modern slavery agenda. So, thank you very much. So, I want to make two examples, a sector example. First one is agriculture and food supply. So, in the UK, there are 45,000 seasonal workers per year in agriculture. So, labor shortcoming cause sometimes to use or to try to employ migrant workers or people that they looking for visa or housing, and they are going to very isolated rural farms, and it makes them very vulnerable. What sort of accountability we can looking for is that trying to create a social responsibility model which create a mechanism to support such workers, and also to create a reporting channel they can report or any kind of abuse that they face. So this helps us to have a more transparency, and specifically after tier 1 suppliers. So to get beyond this first suppliers, that's also very helpful. Another sector is mining, and how we can make sure that in mining sector, specifically because of the electrification, there is a demand, high demand for cobalt, lithium, and very rare minerals. So across Africa, South America, Asia, that's the ground for child labor, forced labor, unsafe condition, and all vulnerabilities. Another solution that we can have in terms of due diligence is to mapping all the supply chain, to go to all the process to the mine level, and then to create an independent audit and traceability system, and trying to make partnership with local NGOs and or local communities. So that there is a evolving landscape in transparency and due diligence. So for UK Modern Slavery Act, which introduced into 2015, which is global leader at the time of that introduction. So enforcement is largely reputational. So mandatory human rights due diligence is not yet part of this act. But in the EU, there is a binding due diligence obligation. So large companies, they need it's going to be implemented from 2028. So they need to ensure their compliance, and they need to do due diligence all the supply chain and the aspects of the different part of their supply chain. So we are going through paradigm shift. So when there is a report or a statement, annual statement by companies that they saying there is zero exploitation. So when they say there is zero exploitation, it doesn't mean there is no risk. They need to always to make sure that they consider all the... And then another issue is if they identify and they report, it doesn't mean that they have a failure. They should be rewarded when they identify if there is any slavery or any exploitation. So when we are talking about accountability, we are talking about actions. So actions is to measure what sort of challenges they have, what remedies they take for the victims, and also how they can report and show. So this is the last one. For Stop Human Trafficking Worldwide, what we are able to focus to scrutinizing annual modern slavery statements by large businesses. We can promote stronger due diligence and ethical procurement, and also raising awareness across communities and institutions, and also to build more platform to support vulnerable workers. And this very important opportunity to work also with government to make such a collaboration, to have that monitoring and also sharing data and intelligence. So I'm going to finish, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right. As you all know, I'm not here because of me. I'm here to represent my team. So I can only talk about what's happening from my organization's perspective. And as I introduced myself earlier, I'm from immigration enforcement. And when one hears about immigration enforcement, they roll their eyes and go, oh yeah, you're going around arresting people. And what people don't realize is we are much, much more than just arresting people. We have the Home Office in general and immigration enforcement as well as a very strong vulnerability and safeguarding policy, which every single person must adhere to because we are first responders. Yeah, so I will quickly go through the vulnerability mission statement. Our mission is to identify and safeguard all those who are exploited or vulnerable in the United Kingdom and who have contacts with immigration enforcement. This is very important. We may come to an address to try and apprehend somebody, but if we come into contact with a victim, everything changes because we have a person-centered approach where we treat victims as victims, not as immigration offenders of any kind. We safeguard the person first. We don't even look at their status. We have to ensure they are safe first before anything else. We will also reduce the number of victims of modern slavery and human trafficking in the UK by safeguarding the vulnerable, disrupting abuse and ending exploitation. We are committed to delivering this through active prevention of abuse, enhancing training programs for IE colleagues, IE means immigration enforcement, partners and stakeholders, expanding our knowledge by enhancing data to inform the intelligence picture, increasing volumes of interventions, and taking prosecution action against perpetrators in the UK. You wanted action, yeah? So, how do we do this? We do have a strategy of 4 missions which underpins everything, and it's the stop, manage, remove, protect. Stop, manage, remove, protect. The stop, at the stop we aim to ensure compliance and disrupt organized crime groups, because once we do that, then the source of modern slavery is very much disrupted. So that is our stop. The manage is to maintain contacts with them and progress their cases to conclusion. These are the victims we come across. We manage them. And at this point, I have to clarify something. There are a lot of people who get a little bit upset when their case does not give them immigration advantage in the UK. It doesn't always end like that, I'm afraid. And that's something we need to accept. Having said that, I always say to people, we've safeguarded you and you are alive. And that's the most important thing. The immigration status thing may not happen for you, but you are alive and you are safeguarded. We sometimes, if the person is suitable, help them to return to their country where they can have support and help. Most of them want to go back anyway, and we have voluntary returns service where we give them some financial help to return, depending which country they are from. There are some countries like Ghana, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, Nigeria, quite a few countries, India, where once you return, we do have a team on the ground that can meet you at the airport and actually help you reintegrate back into the community. And we have a lot of good news stories coming from there. I do have presentations where people have even left prison from the UK. And that's a slightly different system. It's not the same for the victims. The victims get more help. However, when they go back with some money, they may want to start a business, and some counseling, some emotional support. Sometimes when they return, they actually want to stay in a different city rather than their old city. So we make that possible on the ground. Not all countries, but most countries. And this is something that's been very, very popular amongst people who are returning to their countries of origin, the reintegration program. Also, with regards to Remove is focusing on those who are the perpetrators. Of course, we will prosecute them first, once they've served, and then we will remove them to their countries. Depending on your crime, you may be entitled to something called Facilitated Return Scheme or Early Release Scheme, where you can serve. There are so many different, but at the moment, all I will say is the Remove will deal with perpetrators who are taking advantage of vulnerable people. And the Protect explains itself. In fact, the Protect cuts across everything we do in immigration enforcement. We aim to protect the UK and to safeguard vulnerable individuals in our care. This is very important, regardless of what the reason, the initial reason of coming into contact with immigration enforcement is. Protect underpins everything we do. At some point, when you start talking to somebody, and of course there are some indicators, you automatically start treating the person as a victim rather than as somebody who's an immigration offender until we establish their situation. I don't think we sell this enough. So every time you read the newspapers, there's always negativity about the Home Office. We have probably the hardest job in the UK, and we do great work. I was in Bristol at EU Summit of Black Europeans, with 5 or 6 other EU countries, and there was not a single negative word from any of them. And I was like, whoa. I said that the EUS's vulnerability team are amazing. There was a queue of people wanting to speak to me about their experiences. So unless you actually encounter a vulnerable person and you speak to any of the different vulnerable teams in the Home Office, you would never know the great work we do. And of course, my job is to tell people about what we do, how we safeguard people. And this team has existed for 10 years. We do a lot of things around Windrush, if you know the Windrush scandal, but that's not all we do. One of our main jobs is to educate the communities. You did ask about action, what we are doing. My team is one of the actions. All we do is to go around communities, and like I said earlier, I'm the African lead, but we have Southeast Asia lead, we have European lead, we have other Caribbean leads. There are about 12 of us in the team, and our job is to go to the community. So you find me in community centres, you find me here, weekends, all of us. I've done markets. Yeah, I'm everywhere. And one thing we don't talk enough about is educating the youth. I go to youth centres. The Sudanese Youth Centre in somewhere northwest London, they have a football club for young boys, and I went to speak to them about modern slavery. You see, we always forget about the youth, and I think that's where the change will come from. Social media, a very important weapon. again, the youth. My kids keep sending me videos about horrible African parents, so I know they're using social media. You know, it catches their attention. And and I'm talking from the African perspective here. One of the amazing things is storytelling, because culturally, that's how we transfer important information. It's always been like that. So if we have people sharing their stories, lived experiences, people believe something when it's coming from the source. So anybody who's gone through that, we've been in rooms where people have shared their stories and people have been in tears. In tears. I will never forget Manchester sometime last year, and this lady is still my friend, and when she shared her story, the whole room were in tears. And that's how change happens. Let people know how much it's affecting the victims.
Recording in progress.
And this is how change will happen. And there wasn't a single person in the room who wasn't moved by the lady's story. And I think it's important that we keep sharing those stories and we keep using social media where we can reach the youth, where schools, curriculums. Anybody has influence in the education system, please. Let's talk to kids. What's it called? PH, that subject, citizenship. Citizenship. Are we talking to the kids about? My kids have never spoken to me about that they learn this. But I ensure I talk to them, because charity begins at home. I can't be in public spaces and talking to people about modern slavery when my children don't understand it. So charity begins at home. Are we talking to our children about these serious stuff? When I was at university, the first time I heard about modern slavery, exploitation, and was through my business ethics module. And I was shocked. Well, I was surprised, but I wasn't shocked. But I knew in the 80s and the 90s, certain organizations, I won't mention any names, certain organizations had actually started a fair trade in Ghana, where I'm from, in Ghana, to buy shea butter, cocoa products and stuff like that. So I didn't know the relevance of that because I didn't understand it. And then I found out, okay, that's why this is important, because these shea butter ladies are being paid fairly. They can put their children through schools. These farmers do have certain scholarships, so their children can go through school without any stress on the parents. So it made their life better by being farmers, by being shea butter ladies. In Turkey, I spent 3 years in Turkey, and there were ladies who were producing the traditional carpets, which I bought a few, and in collaboration with a German charity through one of the universities, they were being paid fairly for their work, and it changed their lives. And I've seen this so many places, and this is important to what Emir is doing through the supply chain. How are we paying these people? What conditions are they in? Are we changing their lives because they work for us? What are we doing as human beings? So what do I do when my kids go to the shops and they're buying chocolate? They go, this hasn't got a fair trade symbol on it, we're not buying it. And this is the change we want to see. I'm not saying everybody should be signing up to fair trade. All I'm saying is, let's see who's doing well, who's doing the right thing, so we'll spend our money with them. There are certain places I wouldn't spend my money simply because they're not ethical. And that's how we change the world. So I've spoken about education system, social media, digital outreach, workplace and business action, our homes, partnership and community networks like us and you. You know, I probably every engagement I go to at CAMSA, I always bring it up. Last week we were in Shoreditch, I touched on it. There are so many types of vulnerabilities. Domestic violence. If you look deeper, there are so many things which makes a person vulnerable, and it can have links with modern slavery as well, and even domestic servitude. So all those things, you know, we need to understand, not just the surface, and the deeper understanding on how all these links and affect people negatively. And also, I think we need to train everybody to recognize the signs. I went to St. Mary's University, a research-based event, and one of the presentation was hidden in plain sight. And I think it's the perfect description of modern slavery. It's hidden, but it's still in plain sight. It's only hidden to those who can't see it. If you know the indicators, if you know the signs, you can identify it. So although it's hidden, it's still in plain sight. So education, training people to recognize the signs. My colleague Marinike is helping train immigration officers on how to identify modern slavery. Of course, they get trained at their initial training, but of course we still need to keep reminding them that, this is still important and this is still on the cards. I've mentioned about media and storytelling. October, Anti-Slavery Day. What are we doing on those days? Are we screaming enough? Do we have enough events? Are we talking about it enough? All those policy advocacy. When there is a policy like the human rights, are we talking about that? Are we trying to get more people to sign up to maybe compliance? Another way, support survivors. I think it should have been number one for me. Yeah, I don't know how I put it so far low. It should be number one. How do we support survivors? I said earlier, in the immigration enforcement world, we see them as victims. We have a person-centered approach. We look at the person. And I have to reiterate, it does not always, lead to having an immigration advantage. But I still say to people, at least you are alive and you're free. And that in itself is bigger than anything else. Oh, if I stay in this situation, I can get my indefinite leave to remain or British nationality in 5 years. I said, you don't know where you will be in 5 years. Well, if you're not here, what would you need a passport for if you're not here? And it's important we break things down because at this point they may not be thinking clearly because of what they've been through. Are they getting the right help? Are they getting the right support? Any counseling? Whatever. Is it appropriate help for them? Yeah. So my final point here is encourage everybody to take action. And I gave that example with my children. They know who's ethical and who isn't. Does your children know who's ethical and who isn't? Thank you.
I'd also like to acknowledge what you said in terms of the care that is being given to the people that are the victims. Very, very important. And the key points that I'd like to flag up from what you said were, are we talking to our young people? Very, very important. And obviously I'm representing United for Human Rights and Youth for Human Rights. And this programme is designed to teach young people or adults their 30 human rights. And very often people don't know their rights. They say, yeah, human rights, we know all about that. But often if you say, can you tell me those rights? They cannot actually tell you their complete set of human rights. Often the perpetrators are uneducated in their rights. They don't understand the impact of their actions. And by teaching human rights, you actually empower people who are being bullied and who are victims. So I also really like the fact that you said about the use of social media and how can we as a whole group put together all the actions we're doing and get that effectively across on a social media platform, like with the stories, the voices, the human rights education. We've also done a recent march or protest for Stop the Trafficking. We walked from Westminster, Stefan organised that with Sheikh Ramsey. This was an action. It was a collaborative with different community groups coming together, and then the group arrived at Trafalgar Square. We had pledge signings, we had speeches. We've got to get the message out there.
Yes.
And yeah, that's really what I would like to say is let's all work together and form a very effective action plan. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening on a topic that touches the conscience of all humanity, human trafficking and modern slavery. My name is Father Marco, an Anglican priest of the Diocese of Kindu in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I maintain close contact with the Diocese of Kagera in northwestern of Tanzania. In addition to my pastoral service, I have the honor of serving as advisor for cooperation within the World Organization of States, a role that allows me to observe closely the international dynamics that affect human dignity and security. Modern slavery is not a memory of the past. It is a current global system of exploitation. Millions of people are trapped in forced labor, sexual exploitation, domestic servitude, child recruitment, and cross-border trafficking. What makes modern slavery particularly dangerous is its capacity to adapt. It hides within economic systems, migratory flows, and social fragilities. This is not simply a criminal activity. It is a systemic failure, a failure of protection, governance, and international cooperation. Understanding this complexity is essential if we want to build effective responses. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, especially in the eastern regions, instability and poverty create further ground for exploitation. In Kindu, where I serve, I have met families whose children were taken with promises of education or employment, only to be forced into mining work or recruited by armed group. The artisanal mining sector exposes children and young adults to dangerous conditions, violence, and economic exploitation. Cross-border trafficking toward neighbor countries remain a persistent threat. These are not isolated incidents. They reflect structural vulnerabilities that require coordinated national and international action. In Tanzania, it is often seen as a stable nation, yet regions like Kagera, bordering Uganda, Rwanda and Burundi, face significant risks. Children and young people are moved from rural areas to cities for domestic and agricultural work, often without legal protection. Others are deceived with promises of schooling or employment and end up in forced labor. Because the city of Kagera is across road of borders, traffickers exploit the movement of people and goods. This shows that even stable countries can face hidden vulnerabilities when borders are porous and communities lack adequate support. One of Tanzania's greatest strengths is interreligious cooperation. Christian and Muslim communities have built a long-standing relation of dialogue and mutual respect. Together, they conduct awareness campaign, educational programs, and community-based initiatives that help prevent trafficking. This collaboration is not symbolic. It is a practical tool that strengthens social cohesion and protects vulnerable groups. It demonstrates how religious institutions can play a decisive role in safeguarding human dignity. My work with the World Organization of States reinforced the idea that trafficking must be addressed through a multidimensional strategy. The WOS promotes principles that are essential in this fight. The centrality of human dignity, cooperation between states to counter transnational criminal networks, sustainable development as a long-term prevention tool, and education as a means of empowering communities. Trafficking thrives where poverty, ignorance, and isolation prevail. Addressing these root causes is as important as prosecuting the perpetrators. To combat trafficking effectively, we must act on several levels. Governments need stronger legal framework and consistent enforcement. Cross-border coordination is essential, especially in regions like Congo and Tanzania, where traffickers spread weak borders. Local communities must be supported through education, economic opportunities, and social protection. Religious institutions, churches, and mosques play a strategic role in shaping values, offering safe spaces, and raising awareness. A comprehensive approach is the only way to reduce vulnerability and dismantle criminal networks. The fight against human trafficking is a shared responsibility. No government, no organization, no religious institution can succeed alone. A child is protected, a criminal network loses strength. This is not only a moral duty, it is an investment in peace, stability, and international security. No single actor can succeed alone. The fight against human trafficking is not only a moral duty, it is an investment in peace, stability, and international security. Every protected child weakens a criminal network. Allow me to conclude with a conviction born from a long period of work in Congo and in Tanzania. Modern slavery is not inevitable. It can be confronted through cooperation, shared responsibility, and sustained commitment. Each life protected is a step toward a more just and a human world. I thank you so much for your attention and for your dedication to this cause that concerns all humanity.
Father Marco, thank you for excellent. Now,
Yeah, I have a question.
yes, please.
I'm from DRC and Tanzania.
No, here, you have to. Sorry.
I can't listen, sorry.
Here, you can hear in a second.
Hello, Father. Thank you for the great work you're doing. Apart from operating in Democratic Republic of Congo and Tanzania, do you work in collaboration with any other countries at all?
No, the collaboration that I'm starting also to collaborating with South Sudan, and I'm talking about Rwanda, because it's very important to stay linked for fighting these criminal actions. And I'm lucky because I'm a priest of the Anglican Church of Congo. There we have the primate of the Anglican Church in Kinshasa, and we have another bishop, Bishop Mazimango. He is also an ambassador for peace, and there is a fertile ground for cooperating together. But it's very heavy to fighting these criminals people. But with the connection between Christians and Muslim people, it is possible. We try to do all the best, but sometimes it's heavy. If you know the history of Congo, you know that living in Congo is too hard because there are a lot of criminal people there, especially near Kinshasa. But and they want to take people with them. But Christian people and Muslim people fighting these criminal people. And it's not simple, but we have to do. We must do.
We must. Excellent, excellent. Anyone else? No. Father Chung, and he's speaking for 7 minutes. Doctor Nicola, please.
Hello, everybody.
Yes.
My face on eventually can't hear. I'll start anyway.
Yes,
okay?
start, please.
And everyone,
please.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. I just first of all want to say thank you to Tracy and from the Church of Scientology and Amir about actions. Actions are what we need to be doing, and we need to turn actions into words and words into ideas and into action. This is very important. We need to stop talking, we need to do some work.
Yes.
I also want to thank the Home Office about, are we actually talking to our young people?
Yeah.
I don't actually think we are. I really don't think that we're talking enough to our young people about exploitation and about, particularly in the UK, I'm sorry I lost the transmission online, but I can imagine what the Home Office were talking about. It probably was about online exploitation of youth, because that is a huge problem and it's going to grow exponentially. And I'd like to thank Father Marco about bringing a very key point, which is about religious interfaith connections and the power of interfaith, and about how we can mobilise through our faith. But I'd also like to mention that we also need to focus on, particularly in other countries, cultural leaders, because cultural leaders are also very important. Now, I know you all probably can't see my face, so don't worry about it. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, everybody?
Yeah. Yes.
Right, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, well, get ready. Okay, so, you know I'm a girl who loves a bit of work. I haven't got any hips because I need an operation to have 2 new hips, but I've been working very hard with YTEEP, which is Youth Against Trafficking in Persons. And we are basically empowering youth to provide them with safe futures. And this is a pilot scheme. It is going to be located in Kampala, Uganda. Uganda has one of the youngest populations in the world, with more than 75% of its citizens under the age of 30. That's phenomenal. However, rising unemployment, poverty and limited access to a verified job have left many, many young people vulnerable to human trafficking. Traffickers increasingly disguise themselves as recruitment agencies using social media. Listen to this, everybody. They use radio and they use television in Uganda, amongst obviously online platforms as well, to advertise fake jobs and exploit vulnerable youth-seeking young people to work within Uganda and outside of Uganda. In response to this growing crisis, a youth-led initiative involving myself and members of the Youth Senate are developing a strategic anti-trafficking awareness campaign aimed at educating and empowering young people ahead of July the 30th this year. The global observance of World Day Against Trafficking. Now, like all of us, due to limited financial resources, I've told the team that what we need to do is we need to have a pilot scheme. And the campaign's first phase will focus on a pilot project within Kampala so that we can maximise our impact whilst minimising our operational costs. The campaign has received support, valuable support, from important stakeholders such as the Ministry of Internal Affairs on trafficking in persons. We have had the approval of 1 university in Kampala and 3 secondary schools, and we are targeting the ages of 17 to 25 because these are the most vulnerable candidates at the moment that we can target effectively. At the centre of this campaign, I have created 2 fictional educational characters, Amara and Alama, who will help visually to engage content designed to teach students how to identify trafficking risks, avoid recruitment scams and make their own informed decisions. The initiative combines education, media engagement, youth leadership, debate, drama and digital outreach to create a sustainable, youth-led anti-trafficking movement. Our vision is to create an informed, empowered and resilient generation of young, capable people preventing human trafficking and protecting their futures. The mission is to educate, mobilise and empower youth through creative awareness, peer-to-peer leadership and media engagement in order to reduce vulnerability to trafficking and exploitation. So why is YATIP, Youth Against Trafficking in Persons, qualified to lead these initiatives? Well, basically, YATIP is a youth-led movement bringing together passionate young people, students, community advocates and members of the Youth Senate. They are all committed, they are all voluntary, they're not getting paid to combat human trafficking in persons in Uganda. The team understands the realities facing vulnerable young people and they will use peer-to-peer engagement to deliver relatable and impactful awareness campaigns. Finally, our core objectives are pretty simple. We are going to raise awareness amongst youth about the realities of human trafficking. We are going to equip students with practical knowledge to identify fake jobs, scams and trafficking tactics. We are going to promote safe migration and informed decision making. We are going to build youth leadership through anti-trafficking clubs and youth ambassadors. This is a very powerful initiative. and we are going to use media, drama, debate and digital storytelling to maximise youth engagement. And finally, we are actually going to develop a scalable model for expansion across Africa. Thank you. That is my presentation. I appreciate it.
The next one, we lost.
In the modern, are involved in modern slavery, and these are the estimates by the ILO Work Free Report on 2022. Almost the total volume of the trade is around $150 billion, which is the profit generated by this trafficking and slavery. And usually the victim in the forced labor, directly or indirectly, are involved more than 27 million across the world. And 6.3 million children and women are involved in sexual exploitation. Pakistan sits at a critical nexus, a major source, transit and destination countries for trafficking, reflecting vulnerabilities common across the global south, yet distinguished by specific structural, demographic and political factors that are targeted international engagement. This brief synthesis evidence-based analysis of policymakers, diplomats and multi-stakeholder actors committed to end modern-day slavery. Before going into detail, I think we need to understand the legal boundaries of trafficking and human smuggling. Well, trafficking is involved in recruiting, transportation, transfer and harboring persons of mean to threat, force, coercion, deception or abuse of power for the purpose of exploitation, including forced labor, sexual exploitation, domestic servitude and forced begging. While human smuggling is involved, illegal entry of persons into of which they are not entitled to or not permanent resident, and mainly it's again it's financial or achievement. Movement is generally unlawful. This crime is against the state, not necessarily the person. Well, unfortunately, if we see the modern as well as the smuggling, predominantly it is involved within the grassroots of colonial mindset, where the economic disparities have created this opportunity for people to get exploited and to exploit. Pakistan's scale and typology and national data. If you see this, they are reported almost 34,000 plus trafficking incidents. And these are the incidents which are reported. There are more than cases which are not been reported at all. 70% cases are female victims, and there are 24,000 or more have been affected by this scale actually. Women and children are, majority of them are the victim, and the third largest population of modern slavery in South Asia. We need to understand that how does this all go about. Basically, all these individual victims are put into forced labor, sexual exploitation, child labor, bonded labor, forced begging, irregular migration, and apart from that, recently there's another phenomenon came up that the young professionals have been hired and they are taken to the Far East countries for these rackets who are running these scams on the net, and they are very vulnerable in a situation over there. They are put into really punishments and physical torture to do their work. The main drivers of vulnerability in Pakistan and across South Asia is the poverty. Again, as I mentioned, that poverty and economic situation is the main cause for the trafficking as well as human smuggling. And then the porous borders, because the border across the Pakistan, especially towards Iran, Afghanistan and India are quite porous. So the gangs smuggle people from these places, and especially Pakistan is a hub for the smuggling of I would say young individuals who are willingly escaping towards Europe and other countries for being economically vulnerable and for economic migration. So this is the main motivator for that actually. When you see this women and children, burden their women and children are the poor vulnerable into the trafficking as well as human smuggling. And they are more involved in human condition of slavery. I would say the modern slavery where they engage in the body labor or labor without being paid for that actually. If you see the sources, that rural Pakistan, usually people smuggled UAE, Middle East, and then women are used to get employment visa, but then they are put into prostitution and other type of work over there. Children and the families who are poor, they get in labor in brick kilns and urban centers. Young children are involved in prostitution, boys are involved in prostitution, especially in the transport network. And they are primarily internal sources. Punjab and KP are the main district or main provinces where these are trafficked. The transition countries are Afghanistan, Pakistan is the route to Iran and Turkey. Balochistan, from Balochistan we go to Istanbul in Turkey and Iran. And from Karachi they are exported to the Gulf. And the border is basically used for young people to be smuggled from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, India, through Pakistan towards the other countries. We need to understand the dynamics is basically that everything is embedded within the colonial mindset where there are a lot of economic disparities and there are less opportunities which basically give chances to people to get exploited and the people who get benefit of that actually. So within the Pakistan legislative architecture we have these progresses and gaps. I want trafficking in persons protection to 2018 with trafficking with penalties up to 10 years imprisonment, establishing national coordination committees and vaccination frameworks. Then again 2021, National Action Plan, which is made for 21 to 25, holistic 5-year strategy developed in partnership with the UN ODC, covered prevention, prosecution, protection and partnership. And then 22-24, smuggling, amendment and begging provision. When we see this commitment of the government of Pakistan and the state, at the same time we see that they are right with these regulations, but problem is when it comes to implementation. There are the gaps, because being a vulnerable country, economically vulnerable country, Pakistan, they are unable to or they are not willing to invest reasonable resources to fund these initiatives where they can run campaigns, full-fledged campaigns for the awareness among common people, especially for smuggling, for human trafficking, and people get attracted to that actually. So prevention is not that effective. Prosecution, I think there are 20% cases criminals get prosecuted and the victims are recovered.
Dr. Baba, round up please.
The problem is that increased funding is needed for survival shelter, legal and psychological rehabilitation, which is not available. Again, I have mentioned that the state is not willing to invest a lot of resources there, they're scarce there. So, in short, especially the people who get trafficked, the victims, even at times they become part of investigation, or they have been criminalized, which is again the lack of implementation agencies and all those involved in that. So I think at this stage what we believe is that human trafficking is not a problem which cannot be eradicated, it's solvable. The only thing it needs political, sustainable investment and genuine international solidarity. Pakistan Resistance Foundation do exist, but need rigorous implementation and need survivors-centered design for stakeholder accountability, where we need funding to prevent and data system to engage agencies, inter-agency efforts, and then legislation to close gaps where the victims and the criminals, they got mixed up. And apart from that, we need bilateral and multilateral framework of accountability across the institutions as well as...
Dr. Barber, time is up, please. Round up, please.
Countries.
Thank you.
Because, again,
Dr. Barber,
the main motivation is demand and supply. And demand and supply is only available when these people are allured into that...
Dr. Barber, time is up, time is up, time is up.
A very bright future. And on that basis they get exploited.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. We have to have this brief in December 2025 and it needs updated. But I just want to...
Dr. Barber, time is up, thank you. Your time is up. Thank you.
Knowledge and common
thank you.
People and at the same time state is willing to stop these heinous crimes in this community.
Dr. Barber, thank you. Time is up. Thank you, thank you. We have another speaker.
Okay.
Thank you. Very kind. Thank you. Very kind. Very kind. Thank you. Put your hands together. Please go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to stand before you, and it's also a responsibility to stand before you as the Women Advocate and Empowerment Ambassador for Stop Trafficking UK.
Bring it forward. Bring it forward.
Oh. Thank you.
Doesn't come, but just come.
So today we gather not simply for another seminar, but for a moral reckoning. And if we're honest to ourselves, trafficking does not happen in isolation. It thrives in the same ecosystem of violence against women and girls. The connection between violence against women and girls and trafficking is undeniable. At the same time, the International Labour Organization estimates 27.6 million people are trapped in forced labor globally. Many through trafficking networks, with women and girls disproportionately targeted for sexual exploitation. You may ask why. Because trafficking preys on vulnerability, and violence creates vulnerability. These are not just when you think about it, a girl fleeing domestic violence, a woman escaping forced marriage, a teenager neglected and emotionally isolated, a refugee without protection, or a child growing up in poverty. These are not just coincidences. These are recruitment grounds. I appreciate Amir's corporate influence. Oh, he's gone. Amir's presentation on corporate influence, and I'm also glad to have learned from Mercy about what the Home Office does, because that takes away the stigma of what the Home Office is all about. Poverty has become one of our greatest enablers of trafficking in our modern world. While families cannot afford food, education, rent, or safety, Desperation becomes a weapon that traffickers use. Poverty strips away choices, and traffickers steps into those gaps. Now we live in a world where over 117 million people have been forcibly displaced due to conflict, violence, and persecution. When you think about that number, that is great. That is a proportion, it's larger than the population of many nations. This creates a platform for exploitation. War does not only destroy buildings, war destroys systems of protection. So when you ask about it, from Sudan to Ukraine, from Gaza to the Democratic Republic of Congo, conflict is producing generations of traumatized and displaced people vulnerable to traffickers. So when you think about it, trafficking is not just a women's issue, it's also something that affects men and boys. They're being exploited as well. There is a need for male allyship groups. So not just because of violence, but we need male groups. Because why? Men and boys are being affected. They suffer in silence. So we need to ensure that this doesn't happen. We need them to use their voices, and we need to raise awareness of these victims so that they can be safe enough to say what they're going through. We also live in a world now where we face new battlefield, social media. Technology has transformed trafficking recruitment. Traffickers are no longer on street corners. They're behind screens. Young people are groomed through fake modeling contracts, scams, gaming platforms, encrypted messaging apps. Online exploitation is increasing at an alarming rate. And I loved what Nicholas said there. That is ideal, where we need to take action. We also need to get into social media and make a difference and raise awareness. Okay? We cannot fight 21st century crime with 20th century solutions. It doesn't work. We need to be innovative. Young people must not only be protected, they must be empowered. Youth engagement is critical. We need more trafficking awareness in schools, where we need to go to schools and educate kids. I love what Mercy said earlier. We need to ask ourselves, what are we doing to make a difference? We need to go to schools. We need more youth programs and youth groups. We need collaboration with other NGOs, because we talk about governments and all, it's not just down to them, it's down to us. We need to collaborate to get the word out there. We also need community outreach programs, which helps us to spread the word. Okay. We need safe spaces, and we need to challenge cultural norms. We can only do this by reaching out to people and making a difference. When I talk about cultural norms, it's funny how when you think about it these days, because of the conflict in the world, we have a lot of child widows and what we call half-widows. When you think about these people, they need to be educated. They are vulnerable. Men are the head of families, but women run the homes. I always say women are the CEOs, so we need to educate more people. We need to be accountable. Each one of us needs to take action. Each one of us needs to make a difference. And like I love what Mercy says, charity begins at home. Let us become accountable. Data equals results. We need to prove what we're doing. We can no longer stand and say, oh, we're doing this, but we need to prove. Let's be here next time and talk about how many youths we have empowered or we have spoken to. Let's be here and give data to support what we're doing. Because even with our governments now, they cannot represent us if there's no data to back up what we're doing. So by doing this, we're able now to point our victims in the right place. And I love listening to you today, Mercy, because I'm going to take that forward to my girls.
Thank you. Thank you, Thank you.
So today we will discuss a lot of things. Something is new, something is old. So we are always discussing same matters every time. But thank you so much for the immigration. You gave such a wonderful presentation for us to understand about the immigration laws and how we are working, and how the media is give a reputation about the peoples, obviously. So we have to think about before what we are talking in the public media or wherever we are presenting words in front of the public. So I'm very much concerned about my words, what I'm talking should be right, and it shouldn't be defamation, and I don't want to get my thing in any issues also. Anyway, today I'm not going to talk about the same stories and what we are actually doing, and as Nicola mentions already, so she did a lot of really good work in Uganda, so I'm just trying to do some similar work in Sri Lanka and South Asian countries. So actually what I'm trying to find it out that the South Asian is structural vulnerability governance theory. So today I will explain the theory called South Asian structural vulnerability concern theory or SHTWW. This theory is about the understanding why modern slavery and human trafficking happened in South Asia. Most common explanation focus only on poverty, unemployment or crime. However, this theory argues that these factors alone are not enough to explain the problem. Instead, SHTWW explains trafficking as a result of multiple systems working together at the same time. It is not one single cause, it is a combination of history, economy, government structures, constitutional system, migration pattern, and global labor demand. South Asia is a highly connected region. Countries such as India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Maldives, and Bhutan are linked through the migration routes, labor market, and economic dependency. Because of this, a structural problem is one the country can easily affect others in the region. This theory focuses on 5 main factors. First is a historical structure. This reflects of the colonial history, past conflict, and how the modern state were formed after independence. It also includes the constitutional and legal system of each country. The system decided how power is shared, how laws are enforced, and how rights are protected if the constitutional structures are weak or unequal. Long-term vulnerability remain built into the system. Second is economic instability. This includes issues such as unemployment, inflation, national debt, and low household income. When economic pressure is high, people are more likely to take unsafe migration decisions to search of survival and opportunity. Third is migration dependency. Many South Asian countries rely heavily on overseas workers and remittance. While this supports national economy, it creates pressure for people to migrate quickly, sometimes through unsafe or informal channels that increase exploitation risk. Fourth is institutional capacity. This refers to how strong the state is in the practice, including law enforcement, border control, labor regulation, and victim protection system. When institutions are weak, corruption or insecurity, it can allow trafficking network to operate more easily. Fifth is a transnational exploitation pressure. This is referred to global demand for cheap labor and the existence of international recruitment network. Some of these systems operate legally, but others exploit vulnerable people through deception, debt bondage, and illegal contracts. According to SHTWW, when all 5 of these factors converge all at the same time, the risk of human trafficking becomes significantly higher. If one factor is reduced, the overall risk may decrease, but this highest vulnerability all the system integrate similarity. In simple terms, vulnerability increase when the historical system, state structures, economic pressure, and the global labor demand all align the negative way. It's decreased when the strong institution, fair constitutional protection, and effective governance system back this circle. In conclusion, the South Asian institutional vulnerability there it shows that modern slavery is not only the criminal issue, it is also a structural issue connected to state system, constitutional decision, economic condition and global labor network. That means solution must be go beyond the punishment alone, stronger constitutional protection, better government system, safer migration framework and international cooperation are all necessary. Thank you so much.
Today is the 20th of May 2026 and we are standing at a moment in history where the world speaks more than ever about human rights, equality, dignity and freedom. Yet millions of people across the world still live trapped in fear, exploitation, coercion, trafficking, abuse and modern slavery. And sometimes the chains are not visible. Modern slavery does not always begin with handcuffs. Sometimes it begins with fear, with manipulation, with financial control, with immigration pressure, with emotional dependency, with isolation, with someone slowly taking away your voice, your independence, your confidence, your ability to survive alone. Human trafficking today is one of the most profitable crimes in the world. It destroys lives, quietly, behind closed doors, through labor exploitation, sexual exploitation, domestic abuse, coercive control, financial abuse, forced dependency, online exploitation, document control, and organized crime networks operating across borders. And the most dangerous part is this: many victims are never recognized as victims. Some are called difficult, some are called silenced, some are ignored, some are left to fight system they do not understand while carrying trauma they cannot explain. And this is why safeguarding matters. This is why accountability matters. This is why transparency matters. Because when systems fail vulnerable people, exploitation grows stronger. Today I stand before you not only as an ambassador of peace, not only as a humanitarian advocate, but as a mother. As a mother who understands what it means to fight to protect her children while trying to survive emotionally, financially, physiologically, and socially. I know what it means to feel isolated. I know what it means to try rebuilding your life again and again while doors continue closing around you. And I know what it means to keep standing even when exhausted by it. But my story is not only my story, it is the story of every woman, every man, every child, every immigrant, every vulnerable person. Many victims who are afraid to speak because they fear losing everything. Human trafficking and modern slavery are not only crimes of movement, they are crimes of control. And control can exist inside homes, relationships, workplaces, institutions, online spaces, immigration system, and even legal system. When power becomes unbalanced and vulnerable individuals are left without protection. That is why we must stop looking at victims only through stereotypes. Victims do not always arrive hidden in containers or chained physically. Sometimes they arrive educated, well-dressed, smiling, functioning, trying to survive quietly while their entire life is collapsing internally. And we must ask ourselves difficult questions. How many people are being ignored because their suffering does not look the way society expects? How many women are dismissed as emotional instead of traumatized? How many vulnerable individuals are re-traumatized by systems that were supposed to protect them? How many children are witnessing fear inside their homes while the world sees nothing? And how many people lose hope because justice becomes financially unreachable? This conversation is not only about crime, it is about humanity. It is about whether our society still has the courage to protect human dignity before lives are destroyed. We need stronger international cooperations. We need trauma-informed safeguarding. We need earlier intervention. We need education systems that teach young people how to recognize coercion, manipulation, exploitation, and physiological abuse before it escalates. We need stronger protection for women and children. We need better mental health support for victims. We need legal system that remains fair, transparent, proportional, and accessible to ordinary human beings, not only to those with wealth and power. As part of this mission, I have also been developing a policy framework focused on early intervention, trauma-informed safeguarding, mental health protection, and stronger support system for vulnerable women and individuals facing coercion, physiological distress, institutional vulnerability, and legal abuse. The purpose of this work is simple: to prevent human suffering before lives collapse, because too often system responds only after irreversible damage has already occurred. True safeguarding is not only reaction, it is prevention, accountability, dignity, and humanity. Working together before a crisis becomes a tragedy. And above all, we need courage, because silence protects abusers, silence protects traffickers, silence protects corruptions. But truth, even painful truth, creates accountability. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone who speaks, and also our distinguished guest from Home Office. What I also say about that, because while I was listening to you about children, and also Nicola, I remember my personal case, my personal experience. It was 63 years ago. I was coming down from my flat. I was living on the 4th floor. It was like 7 o'clock in the evening, 63 years ago. So when I came out from my building, I saw just like maybe less than this distance from the door. I saw a man, handsome man. He was tall and his eyes, I still remember, blue, grey eyes. And he was a giant. And that was my first thought. I was like 6-year-old, 5-6-year-old. I was thinking, oh, what a handsome man he is. And then I'm a child, but I still thought. And he said, very nice and soft way, girl, come to me. I will give you sweet, I have sweet for you. In that time, of course, 63 years ago, nobody was talking about human trafficking. Even if they would talk, the girl like that wouldn't know about that. And I was attracted by him because, you know, sweet and good looking, whatever. And suddenly I saw his eyes. And there was a look so cold in these beautiful green grey eyes, cold look like sharp. And suddenly I felt danger. First time in my life, I felt danger, intuition. And suddenly I turned and I ran up 4 floors. I remember still how quickly I was running. My heart was beating like that. And I was thinking, why I'm running? I was asking myself, why I'm running? It's sweet, it's all things. Maybe he will tell me the story, maybe fairy tale, all this. And I was running. And that was only thought was, by the time I will knock the door, that my mother will have enough time to open the door, I will be there, and I will feel safe. But what I'm saying, 63 years ago, all my time, somehow, I still kept the vision of this man. I lived in Uzbekistan, I lived in Ukraine, I lived in Russia, in Belgium, in many countries, in UK, and this man still, when I feel danger, come up in front of me. And I was thinking, after that met all these traffickings, I understood why it's come, and I was thinking, it was just glimpse 2 seconds, and I passed this experience, traumatic experience, through my life. What these girls who have been raped, who have been beaten, who have been always, what they can pass through on their life, I just even cannot hardly imagine. And so today I'm supposed to be speak about religion and how religion can help in this. Yes, it can help, but this traumatic personal experience, I don't know, we have to have massive, massive efforts somehow to rehabilitate through all these years. This is our duty, our human duty to all these traumatic people, girls and women and boys. Thank you so much. My speech next time.
There is not that much of time. We want to see what we can do and how you can help us. how we can, how the Home Office can help to stop human trafficking worldwide. We are trying to see where we were before we were talking about just human trafficking worldwide, and I said, well, leave the Home Office on the side. I talked to many things, especially Sarah Thornton. Sarah Thornton is a very close friend of mine. She's head of the trafficking something. You can Google it. I can't remember how much. But what I want to see, what you can do for the stop human trafficking. Stop human trafficking, you have been two times here we met, and of course, how we can collaborate with the Home Office. The Home Office, we are kind of communities, or we are an organization within a community. That's what we could say, because I can see when I looked at your profile for the Africans, coming just for the Africans, Uganda, so and
there are other team members for different areas as well.
Different areas. What we need to do, which area for us, how we can cooperate, how we can, for example, use each other, and how we can. We are trying to expand it to the child abuse and the child care and the woman abuse, which is a part of it. Which when I researched, I saw this is part of the Home Office, which they want to help. Therefore, what we need to do, how we can help it, what we can do, we should collaborate, and if there is, for example, a grant or something which we can get, we can put these young people, we've got several young people, which I, of course, introduce you, for example, Jack, say everybody hello to Jack. Jack, and Jack will talk to you as well to see how we can sort out ourselves and contribute to the Home Office, contribute to the country, and together stop human trafficking. Is big, is dangerous, is big. They got lots of money. If I say, they can get a barristers, QC, whatever. If I approach them, you understand what I'm saying? These are the places we approached. Please tell me what you can do for us. You are here, and the place is yours. Talk.
Right. You've really put me on the spot here, because both our teams, there's a Home Office grant team that gives grants. Both our teams actually don't offer grants at all. However, when there is a grant funded for a particular area, we will send it to our stakeholders to apply. But both our teams don't actually handle grants. We will have to take this back with us and have a look at which areas are getting grants, and then we will have to get back to you on that one. But,
thank you.
But immigration enforcement does not handle grants at all.
Okay, we are not that desperate for grants, but is it something which helped, for example, those volunteers?
Of course.
Volunteers, at least they get their bus fare to come in here, and many of them, they put the things, but however, the next one is, if I find somebody's, for example,
you can't ask all the questions, right?
Oh, that's a question. Question, here you are, that's a question, yes. Sorry, my apology. Question. Yeah,
Hi, Mercy, lovely meeting you today. What I wanted to ask is, it was good learning about what the Home Office does, because I, for one, did not realise all the stuff that you guys do. How can communities engage with yourselves to promote,
Just take my number.
That's the answer.
That's all you need. Just take my name and number and my email, and that's all.
No, that would be perfect, because
that's how I work.
Because that also helps with victims, because it kind of creates that.
We will see. There are teams, so what we do is we will refer the person to the correct team for help. So I'm kind of the middle person. So I come to the community, speak, and somebody walks up to me and say, this and this and this is happening. I will signpost them to help or information that could lead to help.
Yes. Fantastic.
So we can take this
Tracy?
Same question answered, thank you.
Same question answered, okay.
Tracy, I'm sure I gave you my details last time.
Can you give me some of the leaflets for me, please, or the leaflets? What we have, of course, Yeah, thank you. All the white one as well. Now, it's very good. Any other question?
And also, just so you know,
yes,
we've taken quite a lot of your leaflets to share it
absolutely,
at work.
absolutely. We put it there because it's very important through of course, what we have. Again, you know, of course, through the, we are promoting awareness, and we have a very, very sophisticated leaflets, pamphlets, flyers, and so on, which we want to, yes, you have, of course, as you have, that'd be great. Yes, Levine.
Yes, as someone who has faced immigration-related difficulties for more than 25 years, while living in the United Kingdom, I have also seen how vulnerable connected to migration status, defense, isolation, and lack of protection can place individuals at great risk of exploitation, coercion, and abuse. This is why safeguarding must include not only criminal networks but also the wider system surrounding vulnerable individuals, including immigration, housing, mental health, legal access, and financial independence. Because when people are left unsupported for years, they become easier target for exploitation and control. What you are doing towards that?
Okay. With regards to financial support, immigration doesn't actually handle financial support, and most vulnerable people will fall into local authority support, depending on other variables. For example, if you're being rescued from an abusive situation, whether it's domestic, whatever, there is a way you can get help. It may not be the amount of money that will make you comfortable, but there is some kind of help, depending on how this is handled. So whether you go through the local authority or women's charity, we do have NGOs that support the Home Office work, who get help to help people. We work with,
This is not only about financial, it is about fears, about controls, about other things, about safety.
At the Home Office, our remit is purely immigration. However, we work with other departments. And you spoke about trauma-informed help. We have implemented that in the Home Office, by the way. And a lot of organizations, maybe some in the room, were part of the consultation process. And I spoke about this at the IDO panel, whoever was there. Yes. I spoke about that at the IDO panel when the consultation was going on and who was included. So the new NRM referral was created with the help of all these organizations. And we have a lot of first responders who help with all that. Salvation Army is what I'm trying to remember. Yeah. We have the Salvation Army, and we have a lot of organizations who help with everything: psychological help, financial help, and a lot of trauma-informed therapy.
But it doesn't mean it is on the
Can we have just this question and answer, please?
Sorry?
Not debate, question and answer.
It doesn't mean it's written on paper that people really deliver it, and it's being forced.
Sorry, I don't understand your question.
I said that people really suffering.
I don't doubt that. And as with any organization, we're not perfect. And the issue I mentioned about sometimes people are in such a terrible situation that they don't even want to seek help because they have trust issues. Yeah. That is the number one. Yeah. And we know that even, this is separate, and I don't mean to trigger anybody, even depression, which has none of that. You can't even get out of bed in the first place, let alone going to seek help. So there are so many barriers, but I think the first step is the person reporting it. Yes. Once the person reports it, everything kicks into place. And as with any therapy, there are people who pay for private therapies and they don't work for them. Not all therapies work, unfortunately. So I can't guarantee that with all the help that we have to offer, people still won't suffer. And we just got an example of a stranger calling you to come and collect with the trauma. After 63 years, she still remembers vividly. How much more somebody who's gone through so much? So it's going to be extremely difficult. But we can only offer what we can offer. And you know what? We are not a perfect organization. We're still working on it. And hopefully one day we'll get it right. And hopefully we get it right for some people. as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. These guys, I work with them. They are very
Yes.
So I work with them.
Been
So,
looking everywhere for you.
And I can answer some questions because about the immigration, because the immigration I'm part of it. But at the same time, they have a different division because mainly I'm working with the community and I sit in a community that consists from different organizations, home office, police, council, communities, and other business organizations to support. Specifically, we have people who they call human trafficking, and we have asylum seekers, and we have migrants within the community. So there are quite different organizations involved, and for her specifically because she sees it as an immigration, and also she comes out and works with the community and solve other problems which connected to other departments that she takes it from us, and she goes and delivers over there. So the one I'm sitting on it is a Clear Spring, is commissioned by the Home Office, and which you are a big disaster, you know yourself. Dr. Ramsey, I don't need to talk about it. But that organization we talk about it is a victim support, and victim support is related to the also to the Home Office. And Home Office anyway is a police institution of police. And when she says that they can't do anything, I agree with her. Because sometimes they do nothing. That is why they employ people like her to go out and help people and bring information back and help people.
Yes,
so that's how
very good. Thank you. I asked Jake, can you see Jake? I asked Jake to
One second, because she wants to say something.
Can I add something? Thank you very much, Adira, for that support. And don't forget, a big chunk of my job is to bring community insights. Whilst I can't promise that I will change the law, because that's done in Parliament.
We do. I've been there time.
Because that's done in Parliament, I can inform policy making, and that's what I do. I don't take intelligence from anybody. I take insight. What's happening? What is the trend? What are people complaining about? What's bugging people? Why are victims not being supported? Which area? Where are the issues? And then I will put that back into policy, and then they will look at it when they are writing policy for legislation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I was just going to say that with my team, we support Mercy's team, but we do community engagement with different communities, and we are signposting. We're letting people know. Like we have surgeries and they come and say, they might give their story, they might just be simply asking for an update on their case, and we can look at it and tell them what's gone on with their case. We can't say to you, go down this route, because we're not lawyers, we're not qualified to do that, but we will signpost you. We will, if there was an issue around like the introduction of the e-visas, we will get that team to speak about it. We will get other charities, migrant helpline, whichever, voluntary removals team. We get people to assist in helping to answer those questions. We did an event last week where they spoke about the white paper.
Yes. In Shoreditch,
So
and other things. Adding on to that, Monica mentioned surgery. For example, Monica's team has a surgery in East London, Kingsland Road in Hackney. And sometimes some of the vulnerabilities is not knowing what's going on with your case. They're not knowing it is such a big burden for most people. So they would come to a place, it's in a church. So they would walk into the Christ Apostolic Church on Kingsland Road and speak confidentially with an immigration officer without fear of being arrested. We don't wear uniforms, we wear jeans and trainers, and you come and speak confidentially and say, I have done this, I'm going through this, and I haven't heard anything from the Home Office for the last 2 years, for example. And we will have the laptop in front of us. We will not advise you, but we will check what's happening, and we'll probably tell you that your solicitor never made that application on your behalf.
Nina,
Just
Nina.
please, 1 second, please. 1 second, because Duchess' case is different because she has been suffering for some time. She hasn't got any lawyer because the lawyer she has, all of them that are corrupt. So she has to end up doing her work herself because I was following. And she has been treated, and I think somehow because there is support, somehow sometimes, you know, like when we have people who have been a problem with them, they compensate them, but in a different way, because they have seen that way is better. So they straightforward, and also they give them the visa, they solve the problem. She fallen under that problem for many times because there is another corrupted people behind which they put her in that situation. But she can explain some other time. We can meet when we have a meeting, she can come. And she's okay, but she suffered and she had a trauma. That's what she meant because when they give her compensation, but she didn't take it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, just make it short because the food coming and I'm sure.
It's fine, Dr. Ramsey,
Okay.
please. Okay. My question is simple, like I think I've already answered to my question. I would like to ask you that, you know, when the immigration is come under the external policies, right? Or national security and external policies in the United Kingdom. So when we are talking about the immigration, or, you know, when we are talking about that section, is it directly connected that external policy of the United Kingdom? And also that national security of the United Kingdom, right?
Well, the Home Office is what you are talking about.
Yes. So
I think just let them answer the question, please. Otherwise, we don't debate.
This is my question.
Okay, just find the question because there's no time. Please, have a question. Yes.
The Home Office, the police is an agency that sits under the Home Office. The Home Office is huge. It has about 27 agencies that sits under it. So, although we're not one organization, we are one organization, we all work very differently. So you could have, for example, if you have a case with immigration and then you have a modern slavery case, the police could be looking into it. If it's organized crime, another department could be looking at it. So you could have 3, 4 agencies under the Home Office banner working towards one case. And this is why Hajira said it's victim support, there is this, there is so many different bits because the work is so big. And there is something, this has something to do with when you are dealing with another aspect of a case, you can't also be investigating it. So we keep sterile corridors. This person cannot touch this side because you don't want to influence, cross-contaminate, influence what's going on there. So, for example, a criminal case is always more important than any other case. So, if you come to me today and say, I want to take voluntary return to my country, the first thing I do is get Marinike's team to check if you have committed any crime in the UK and you're running away.
Oh.
Yeah. So, criminal case is number 1. So, if you are being prosecuted for organized crime, immigration won't step in at all. Everything is separate. The criminal side will have to be completed before immigration can touch you or even speak to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Donna and yes, very quick, 1 minute I've got 1 minute left.
Me again.
Please.
You know, we've got a big drive towards youth awareness. Okay. So my first question is, do you at the Home Office hold like youth summits where we can empower youth in what you're doing? Then my second question is...
When you say Home Office, which part? Home Office is 27 agencies.
No, in terms of what we're talking about in relation to trafficking and vulnerability, because again, raising awareness, whether it's violence against women.
Yeah, I can bring a team. Like I said, I'm the middle person, and I bring the team out to come and talk to the community. So I go out, speak to the community, and they will tell me, oh, we want the youth to be spoken to. So I'll go and look for the team that works, that's like trafficking, for example. Bring the team out to come, or even a Zoom, to come and discuss about certain things. For example,
that's very good.
For example, there are certain sensitive subjects that affect female, and we will have somebody give presentation to young girls around this time of the year before the summer holidays, because that's when that happens.
Exactly.
So the second part,
Just please, there is no time.
No, the second part, it was just quick. It's just thinking about the digital platform. Would you collaborate with us to have social media?
Yes.
Adverts?
We don't touch social media.
Okay.
We as a team does it, but the Home Office does. And this is why when I was speaking earlier, I said the Home Office doesn't talk, doesn't showcase the positive things we do. And that's the biggest issue, because the public doesn't see what we do. So because we're not allowed to collaborate with content creators and talk about the work we do. However, the stakeholders that we work with put us on there, and we can't do anything about it. So if I work with you and you put something online, if you Google my name, you'll see pictures of me speaking at different events. I didn't put that there because they would do a write-up about all the positive things that came out of the event online and put my pictures on it. I didn't put that there.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you. And just make sure that you come the next time when you have an event, brings the council with you. No, I think... Bring the local authority, because there's a problem about you.
There's a program about me.
No, use local authorities, they have to come in.
Let's talk.
Anything?
No, I think Mercy said it all. We are here to signpost, we are here to help, we are here to be a part of the solution.
Excellent, excellent. Now, God bless you, thank you. Put your hand together for yes. Anything else? That's all. Okay.
I know I've been skulking at the back, but so my name's Chris. My background is mental health awareness and homelessness awareness. I was awarded an MBE in 2020 for my campaigning, and now I've met Dr. Ramsey. I'm looking into the human trafficking. The biggest thing is evil survives in silence, and I read that one day and I thought that's really it stuck with me. Why I did so well in the homeless community was I disrupt. As a nation, as a public, we need to start disrupting things. I know you guys are obviously doing it a lot, but I used to take volunteers of people outside of brothels to try and disrupt them. I used to take them to known drug dealer spots, and people are willing to do it. So I think what we need to do is just get out there and do that. Like I said, evil lives in silence. The main thing for me is I have a connection for the Education Minister. I can't understand why all this stuff is not in the curriculum in schools. So if the Home Office can put together something that maybe we can put into the curriculum, like a proposal, I can then get it into the Education Minister and try and get it into the curriculum in today's schools. Yeah, someone was after and we'll go from there. But yeah, thank you very much. Carry on doing what you're doing, everyone. It's been a pleasure watching.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, before that, we're going to get picture.